Greetings everyone, my name is Qiqi Chen, and today we'll be discussing about epilepsy. The purpose of this presentation is to dive in depth into understanding epilepsy, a prevalent neurological disorder by its definition, symptoms, causes, and treatments. Number 1, by educating on the fundamental aspects of epilepsy, including its medical definition and the biological mechanisms involved. Number 2, identifying and describing the signs and symptoms of epilepsy, helping the audience recognize how this condition manifests. Number 3, explain the genetic and environmental factors that contribute to the development of epilepsy, providing a comprehensive view of its causes. Fourth, discuss the current and emerging treatment strategies, emphasizing how the management of epilepsy is tailored to individual needs. Last but not least, promote awareness about the impacts of epilepsy on individuals and communities, highlighting the importance of supportive measures and stigma reduction. On this slide is the table of contents. We'll be defining epilepsy, looking at the signs and symptoms, the causes and origin of epilepsy, how epilepsy is spread and prevented, the treatment options, temporal and spatial distribution, summary and questions, and the references. According to the World Health Organization, epilepsy is defined as follows. Epilepsy is a chronic non-communicable disease of the brain that affects around 50 million people worldwide. It is characterized by recurrent seizures and brief episodes of involuntary movement that may involve parts of the body or the entire body. They are sometimes accompanied by loss of consciousness and control of bowel or bladder functions. Signs and symptoms. Seizures are different for everyone, and some of the common symptoms people report according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Strokes include motor symptoms, temporary confusion, loss of consciousness or awareness, seizures, psychic symptoms, starring spells, and sensory disturbances. Causes and origin of epilepsy. This flowchart illustrates the multifactorial causes of epilepsy, categorized into genetics, environmental, and neurological factors, each color-coded for clarity. Genetic factors include inherited disorders and predisposition, symbolized by a DNA strand. Environmental factors, represented by a tree icon, encompass prenatal injuries and infectious disease. Neurological factors cover direct brain impacts from injuries, strokes, or conditions such as cerebral palsy, shown with the brain icon. The chart provides a visual understanding of the diverse and complex interactions leading to epilepsy. How is epilepsy spread and prevented? Well, some risk factors for developing epilepsy are genetic predisposition, where family history increases the likelihood of developing certain types of epilepsy. And for instance, in infants, infant mutation SCN1A gene causes Dravet syndrome. Head traumas, injuries to the head, such as those from accidents or sports, are at a significant risk factor. Brain conditions diseases such as brain tumors, strokes, or infections like meningitis can lead to epilepsy. And lastly, developmental disorders. Conditions such as autism are associated with higher rates of epilepsy. Some preventive measures to reduce the risk of getting epilepsy. Here are some of the ways to reduce the risk. With regular medical checkups, early detection and management of conditions that can lead to epilepsy is a great way to start. Taking safety measures by wearing helmets during sports and seatbelts to prevent head injuries. Prenatal care is also important because it ensures the adequate health checks and nutritional support during pregnancy. And fun fact, epilepsy is not contagious. Now, moving on to the exciting part, we'll be discussing about the temporal and spatial distribution of epilepsy. Here we have a graph from the CDC on the active epilepsy prevalence by state in the US on age groups. So we took at the little legendary box to your right, we can see that the darker blue shows more prevalence compared to the white. We can see that the minimal amount estimated numbers of active epilepsy cases with the white circle is around 5,900 to 14,000 cases. And to your bottom right, with the dark blue circle, 100,000 to 400,000 number of cases. Now let's take a look at the circles around the states. I've indicated that with the red circles, those are states with higher prevalence in epilepsy. States like Texas, California, and Florida. And in comparison to other states, the black box that I circled, Montana, North and South Dakota, and Wyoming have the least amount of active cases on epilepsy. Did you know that around 50 million people worldwide have this disease, and about 3 million people in the US have this common disease? A better representation to visualize how much 50 million really is, for example, it's enough to fill the largest college football stadiums in the US 464 times. Here's the statistics from World Health Organization. Nearly 80% of people with epilepsy live in low and middle income countries. And it is estimated that up to 70% of people living with epilepsy could live seizure-free if properly diagnosed and treated. Now, let's do a quick recap on the summary and key points that we have discussed so far. Definition and overview. Epilepsy is a neurological disorder characterized by recurrent, unprovoked seizures. Signs and symptoms. Common symptoms include seizures, temporary confusion, staring spells, and sensory disturbances. Causes and origins of epilepsy. Epilepsy can be caused by genetic factors, environmental conditions, and neurological injuries or disorders. Preventions and management. While not all types of epilepsy can be prevented, risk can be mitigated through medical interventions, safety practices, and regular health screenings. Lastly, we also went over treatment options. Treatment may include medications, surgical interventions, and lifestyle adjustments tailored to individual needs. Now, let's test your knowledge and see what you have learned so far. Here are some thought-provoking questions that I'd like you to answer. Feel free to pause or screenshot. These questions will help you to think critically about the broader implications of epilepsy in society. Here are all my references that I used for this presentation, including the images. A big special thanks to Canva for the template. Here's a quote that I found on Google. Epilepsy is just a small part of your journey. Don't let it overshadow the greatness that lies within you. Here's another quote from Danny Glover. He said, I want people with epilepsy to know that there's ways in which they can play a role in their own recovery. It is all in how they approach what is happening and how they can use it that is a catalyst for their own growth. If there's one thing that I've learned, it's that people are willing to embrace you if you share your story. And I totally agree with that quote. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. I really hope that you enjoyed this presentation. And until next time,